The 8 logical inferences that prove the existence of the greatest creator. Xiefeng. 1. Everything has a source, and the source is the greatest creator. The Amazon that runs across South America, the bold and flowing Nile, the surging Yangtze, and the roaring Mississippi, all have their headstreams. Benguela cold current, Peru cold current, Mozambique warm current, and Guyana warm current all have their sources. Rio de Janeiro London Airline, Los Angeles Paris Airline, Honolulu Manila Airline, and Paris Colombo Airline all have their starting points. All things created by man have come into being from a certain source. All tools that we use, including pencils, needles, spades, spoons, pliers, automobiles, computers, printers, cameras, and machine tools, and all daily articles, including musical instruments, chess, painting and calligraphy, watches, alarm clocks, desks, chairs, and wooden stool, shoes, stockings, clothes, caps, cups, thermoses, reading lamps, telephones, and refrigerators and TV sets have an origin, and obviously they don't come from none. The cats, dogs, goats, and pigs we raise at home all have an origin. Even peony, peaches, pears, and almonds can be traced back to their origins. Music, characters, arts, medicines, theories, methods, magic arts and alchemy, axioms and theorems all have a source. White Europeans, black African, yellow Asian, Arabians, and Brazilians are all descendants of their ancestors. The towering Himalayas, the fertile and vast Nile Delta, the extensive Amazon alluvial plain, the silver and white-wrapped Antarctica, all have formed from Earth transition. Everything has its origin. What about the Earth, the solar system, and the universe? They all have their origins. Since everything has an origin, there must be a primordial origin. And this primordial origin is the greatest creator. The 8 logical inferences that prove the existence of the greatest creator. Xiefeng. 2. Everything is in motion, and the primordial motive power comes from the greatest creator. The mountains are revolving, the wind is roaring, the river is flowing and the springs are welling, the clouds are drifting, the earth is shaking, the ocean is surging, and the flames are raging. The plants are growing and the flowers are fading, the bacteria are multiplying and the insects are bustling, cattle and goats are grazing and the lions and tigers are running, the hens are laying eggs and the larks are singing. The electrons are spinning and the molecules are moving, the particles are discharging and electric waves are rushing, infrareds are radiating and gamma rays are thrusting, electromagnetic waves and photons are flashing. The heart is pounding and the blood is circulating, the skin is breathing and the stomach is wriggling, the nerves are sensing and the hair is growing, the thinking is connecting and the mind is thinking. Sitting on the earth we are traveling hundreds of thousands of miles every day. In an instant, tens of thousands of years have flit past, the sun, the moon, the stars, and the lightning are all speeding fast by. In the morning your hair is still black, but by the dusk it has turned gray. Everything is moving, and moving comes from pushing and pulling. Where does the primordial motive power come from? How is moving possible without the greatest creator? The 8 logical inferences that prove the existence of the greatest creator. Xiefeng. 3. Everything has an image, the nature of the image is energy, and the core of the energy is the greatest creator. Image is picture. It refers to the size, shape, feature, and structure of an object. Image is the dividing line to distinguish one substance from another and to distinguish one object from another. That microorganisms and insects, grass and trees, man and other animals, mountains and rivers are different from each other is because they each have different images. Everything has a unique image different from each other. Then how has image come into being? The substrate of image is gene structure. The gene structure determines the image. That water and oil has different images is due to different molecule structures, namely different gene structures. However, any structure would only be a phantom without the participation of energy. Take, for example, the building of a house. We should first conceive the structure of this house in our mind. For very complicated houses, structural representation may also be needed. However, without the input of mechanical and human energy, the house will always remain a phantom. Only with the investment of human and material energy will the structure conceived in our mind materialize into the real house. A seed will turn into a plant only after it has absorbed the nutrients, moisture, and the heat energy and light energy of the sun. The fertilized egg in the womb of a mother will develop into a normal animal only after it has been continuously supplied with nutrition and energy. A bulb will give off light only after it has been input electric energy. A mound will become a high mountain only after it has received the energy of a continuously revolving earth. A small river will become a great surging, impetuous river only after it has marshaled the energy of thousands of streams. Then where does the energy come from? Let's trace the sources. A sapling must obtain moisture to unfurl its leaves and grow. The moisture absorbed by the root system mainly comes from the saturation of rain water. Where does rain water come from? It comes from the vapor-carried clouds in the sky. Where does cloud come from? The cloud comes from the ocean carried by the wind. Where does wind come from? Wind is formed because of the convection of the cold and warm currents on Earth. How are warm and cold currents formed? They are formed by the continuous heat loss and heat acquisition of the Earth's surface when the Earth rotates, not considering such factors as the gravitation of the Moon. Then how does the Earth begin rotation? What power has caused it to rotate continuously? According to the law of the conservation of energy, there could be no perpetual motion machines in the universe. The motion and change of any object should be propelled by another or more energy. Without energy, there would be no changes and motions of things. Then the motion and changes of everything must in the final analysis be propelled by a primordial energy not controlled by other energies, and this primordial power is the greatest creator. The rotation of the Earth is propelled by the energy of the greatest creator, and after the Earth is in motion it will be driven by the other planets in the solar system, including comets. The 8 logical inferences that prove the existence of the greatest creator. Xiefeng. 4. Cause and effect are interconnected, every effect has its cause, and the greatest creator is the primordial cause of all causes. We have all experienced headaches. Everyone may have a different cause for headache, but every headache has a cause, and there could be no headache without a reason. Everyone becomes sick because of some causes, no matter what kind of disease he has contracted. There are also causes for congenital diseases. No one, I think, will disagree in this matter. In the same way, typhoon, tornadoes, earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, sandstorms, and SARS virus all have their causes for occurrence. World War II, the Crusades, and wars in the Middle East all have their causes. They would not take place without any causes. The massacre of the Jewish people in World War II, the collision of Titanic with icebergs, the attack against America's World Trade Center, the disintegration of Soviet Union, the return of Hong Kong to China, and the overthrow of Saddam regime, all these have happened with their own causes. Aren't there causes for the Earth orbiting around the Sun and the Moon orbiting around the Earth? Aren't there causes for airplane crash, train collision, collapse of houses, and flooding of rivers? Aren't there causes for being the object of vituperation, for broken family, for imprisonment and decapitation, and for unnatural death? Aren't there causes for tumefaction on the head and purulence on the feet, deafness and blindness, and disability? Aren't there causes for tigers and leopards capturing of deer, for birds catching of insects, for the slaughtering of pigs, and for man's sudden misfortunes? Aren't there causes for the decline of the early Maya civilization, Greek civilization, Egyptian civilization, ancient Roman civilization, Syrian civilization, Persian civilization, and Babylonian civilization? Aren't there causes for the rise of American civilization? The following phenomena I listed in the chapter of Inevitability of Lifechanyuan all have their causes. The rise of wind and waves, the ebb and flow, the rising of clouds and falling of rain, the snow and mist, thunder and lightning, tsunami, typhoon, volcanic eruption, earthquake and fault, flooding, sandstorm, disappearance of birds, morning and evening glows, rainbows, solar and lunar eclipses, seasonal changes, migration of birds, hibernation of frogs and snakes, morning songs of larks, roosters crowing, plague of insects, multiplication of bacteria, the birth in the spring and growth in the summer, the collection in autumn and storage in winter, the entwining of vines, the fragrance of osmanthus, the blooming and withering of flowers, the sun-facing feature of sunflowers, the continental drift, the disintegration of Earth's crust, the melting of snow, the disappearance of islands, the river's change of course, the landslide, the rise of peaks, the weathering of rocks, the ravines, the movement of sand dunes, the spring between the rocks, the waterfalls, the river's transport of sand, the appearance of delta, and so on. All phenomena or results, whether in the sky or under the sun, have their causes. We can never find a phenomenon or result that does not have a cause. If life forms on Earth owe their existence to the Earth and the solar system, and solar system owes its existence to the Milky Way galaxy, then what is the reason for the birth of the Milky Way galaxy? If we track further, we will understand that at the beginning of the birth of the universe, there must be a primordial cause, the cause of the cause, the greatest creator.